Anyway, it is Thursday, August 29th. And yes, and yesterday was, of course, Wednesday the 28th, and the post transcript, the Dresden post transcript came out yesterday and had the fifth piece in it related to my altercations with a specific police officer here and with my battles with the village. And what I promised the readership that I would do is introduce on YouTube or release on YouTube some of the eyewitnesses to the altercation, the eyewitness interviews to the altercation I had with Curtis Rogers. So if you don't know anything about this, you know, I got friends in Des Moines, I got friends in Boise, Idaho, I got people in Nashville, Tennessee following this case. If you don't have any backstory at all, the purpose of this video basically is to try in a minimal sense flesh out enough backstory that you'll understand the context of the video that follows it. I expect they'll be filed on YouTube under Dresden, Ohio, under Seige 2 and 3. So this should be 2, and I'm kind of bouncing this off a neighbor, Leslie. Hi, Leslie.
Hi.
Leslie has also had an introduction to the Dresden's Finest recently, and is also sort of actively involved and interested in how this case is going. So she's kindly sitting here letting me kind of play off her in case I forget anything or I don't have to just talk to a camera. Anyway, bare minimum backstory. What you're going to look at in 3 is a video interview with a couple that lives across the street from me that were eyewitnesses and gave eyewitness accounts to my altercation with Rogers, which occurred on June the 16th, Tuesday afternoon. And that has led to all kinds of interesting court and litigation possibilities, and they are ongoing, and we will probably explain it in more depth later. But in terms of just the altercation I had with the officer, I indicated almost immediately after it was over, within a couple of days, that I intended to charge the officer. And I had 2 eyewitnesses to the event, and it was over a week later before I got the police report, so I found out there was one more key element that I eventually said that we would want to charge him with, and that was falsification of a police document. So the initial charges that I was intended to bring were assault. He drew his taser on me at some point during our interchange for absolutely no reason, without any provocation, and that is attested to by the witnesses. Possibly excessive use of force, certainly police brutality, and he intentionally handcuffed me for transport at some point in a way that was intended to hurt me. And stay with the with the witness video, because one of the things that they observed, and believe it or not, it's also in his police report, at some point he had me in the car, handcuffed, actually in a car that I'd volunteered to get into about 2 minutes earlier. And before he transported me, he actually took me out of the car to take one set of handcuffs off and then put one set back on, and he intentionally put them on tight enough to hurt me, and the observers couldn't hardly believe that he would take me out of the car. And of course, anybody involved in law enforcement, just their heart stops at that point, and they say, "What? Repeat that?" I said, "It's in his report." It's in his report because he knew people saw it. It was that simple. So there's things in his report that you wouldn't normally expect to be there. Anyway, there are specific talking points that we asked the 2 eyewitnesses in the video. Help make me sure I don't forget any of them. I think initially we established, or we asked as a yes or no question, did you at some time observe Rogers being verbally abusive to me? And Amanda and Ray both said that they both observed him at some point yelling and cursing at me. And you'll hear that as a talking point. I asked him specifically even though they had seen the entire event. And did they ever see me physically or verbally threaten the officer in any fashion whatsoever? They said absolutely not. We read them directly from the police report, his version of the taser incident. Because once he had it out, and he actually put it in his report, he had it out, he invented an escalation of force issue. That's what they call it. To justify the fact that he pulled a taser on me. And I read verbatim from the police report his account of that. They both indicated, as you'll see in the video, that they considered that to be absolute falsehood. You know, it's an invented passage. Or as I've stated before, he intentionally falsified a police document. He's actually done it in two places, one other place other than what we're going to cover here and in this video. So, but this particular piece and these two witnesses corroborate that. Pay attention. Those of you that are new to this happened on June the 16th. Our police chief was informed about it on June the 18th. Within 1 week of the incident, he talked very briefly to Amanda, did not ask her for a statement, has never talked to Ray, has never asked him for a statement. In point in fact, has refused to take any statements from him. And that's a key area that you want to keep in mind, because she's going to tell you, I told him pretty much exactly the same thing you're about to hear now. But he refused to take statements from him, just as he's refused to act against the officer. Other than that, Ray, I asked Ray at some point actually to stay. And I was glad that, you know, that we were coincided on that, because at some point during the altercation, I asked the gentleman to please not go anywhere to observe, because you could see the officer was going to melt down for no reason. And has repeatedly. Last but not least, I would suggest to you to stay with the YouTube videos. We'll be putting a lot more of them up. Because again, if you're somewhat new to this or don't know all the backstory, we'll fill it in. And one of the things you have to understand is we have taken or talked to dozens of witnesses that have had similar incidents with the same officer, and he's still here. And this is 9 or 10 weeks after the incident I had with him. So hopefully that'll about wrap it up. We'll have a lot more backstory later, and hopefully that's enough for you to understand that what you're watching here is two eyewitnesses accounts of an incident that occurred between me and this officer that are corroborating and attesting to the fact that I significantly wanted to charge him with assault, excessive use of force, police brutality, and falsification, intentional falsification of the police document or report. So you can be the judge of that. Go to Dresden, Ohio under Siege 3, and you'll basically observe what it is that we're leading into now. We're good. Or at least we hope we are.
I think so.
Well, let's see what we got.